This lecture will be on fertilizing, and we'll be talking a little bit about dry fertilizers and liquid fertilizer. The reason I'll start with the dry, that way we'll get rid of the spreader here, but dry fertilizers, you could throw them on by hand, and we're not talking about manure or anything like that or amendment. We're talking about some kind of a commercial fertilizer. And this is called a drop spreader. And the reason I like it, it drops it right where you want to use the material. The other spreader we have for dry material is this little guy here. And it shoots it out the bottom as you crank it, and you put it in here, and it throws it out, but there are no lines. You don't know where you're going, so you might overlap and get too much in one place, not enough in another, which is the same thing if you throw it by hand. You've probably seen old movies where people do this. Well, in the old days, they had somebody that knew how to do it, and they did a pretty even job. But you, and when I started out, were not that good. So you use this drop spreader, you watch where your wheels go, and you go up and down. Well, one semester we had done one of the lawns around here, and another instructor came up, he's all excited, and he wanted to take pictures for the book article he was writing, because even with this, they missed big patches like this. The grass was like this, and then there was nothing. Big stripes of nothing, you know, just dormant grass. And so he said, oh, this is a classic. And so, and what I wanted to show you, and Thomas will move it, this is broken, but the bottom of it, as you adjust it, so it would open just so big or bigger and bigger, and that determines how much fertilizer comes out as you go. So what you do there, you close this, and that opens the hopper, but you got to keep moving, because if you pull this and stand still, it just keeps dropping out. Okay, then you get too much fertilizer, you'll burn the grass. Okay, so just because it's a piece of equipment doesn't make it easier. It might make it a little more difficult for you, you know. But once you get good at it, you can run behind it practically, you know. In our business, we don't even use this, you know. If I would use this, maybe if I had an big open bed and I want to grow vegetables over the whole thing, you just go around and then you're going to rototill it in. This would be kind of nice, okay? Then, so this is established planting. Now, if you go into of lawns and stuff like that, but when you go into your planting, vegetable gardens and everything, you could put dry material out, and then you have to do the watering, just like this. It's got to be dry when you put it on, water after. Keep it moist, okay? If you're in your vegetable garden, do not put the fertilizer on the foliage. You can burn them, but put a little bit around each one, then water it all in, because in a dry form, it's not going to work. Also, if you're going to do a lawn or your vegetables, maybe a couple days before, you should water them both very well, so the ground is moist. So when you put the fertilizer on and you wet it, it starts to go down. If you just put it on dry ground, it'll just sit there until you get enough water. It may take quite a few days, okay? So when it comes to the vegetables or flowers and things, I like liquid fertilizers, okay? They're easier to put on, they're quicker acting. The bad part, they don't last as long. But if they're easy to put on, you just have to do it a little more often, okay? So the best method is a sprinkling can. You put so much per gallon in there, fill it with water, and just go around all your plants. If you have a few plants, this is a good way to do it. If you have a lot, you're going to be back at where the hose is, filling it up. If you, let's say, had to put on 50 gallons, you have to make 50 trips. So therefore, you might look into one of these forms of applications of liquid fertilizer. It'll tell you how much to put in per gallon. And a lot of times these will be put out 15 gallons if you fill this up. You have to read the book. Sometimes it's only 8 gallons, but it's better than 1 gallon. So, and it comes out like out of a shower head, and so it almost works like a sprinkling can. So you hook your hose on here, flick the switch down here, and you're putting fertilizer on.
You call those hose end sprayers, huh?
Yeah, hose end sprayer, and you can do your lawn. Sometimes I've done lawns when I want to get a quick reaction. Put this on one day, and then the next day come and use this. And this will start it a little quicker, and then later on, this will start to take effect. Now, if you have a real huge place, that's when you got my favorite tool. It's called a hose on. It's a siphon. And so you hook this on the hose bib, hook your hose on here. This goes into a bucket. You could put in a 5-gallon bucket or a 30-gallon garbage can.
A bucket of liquid fertilizer.
Yeah, liquid fertilizer only, or any fertilizer that will go into solution.
Oh, it dissolves.
If it'll dissolve, it'll go through here. And sometime when I've done that, before it goes into the bucket, I would put it in another bucket, mix it all up, and then pour it through an old stocking or some cloth that will filter out some of the cloggy stuff. Because you could plug this up. But if this is 1 to 15, so if you had a 1-gallon jug filled up with enough for 15 gallons, by the time this sucks it up, you put on 15 gallons. So if it's 1 to 15, if you go to a 5-gallon bucket, that much more, 30-gallon garbage can, you could do a huge garden and everything. And the whole trick is you don't have to keep going back to fill it up. You just go around with your hose, okay? So I find that this, it's in every one of our trucks. I just love to use this. I've been using this for 40 years. It's not a new invention. It's an old invention.
And Gus, don't you do some kind of little trick so that in the bucket so that the thing stays down?
Yeah. If you're in a 1-gallon jug, then I take a piece of old hose and clip the bottom of it so it's on an angle and push this down through it, and that way it'll hold it on the bottom of the gallon, and that'll work. If you're in a 5-gallon bucket, I wrap this with wire and a piece of straight wire and with tape holding it straight down, clamp it on the edge of the bucket so this stays in the bottom. Otherwise, a lot of time it'll flip up.
And you're still watering, but you're not sucking no fertilizer no more.
Yeah. If this comes out above the water line, you're not doing anything. Water's still coming out of the hose, but you're not feeding. You know. So these are little tricks that you learn, but you know, it's easier to carry this than that or any of this other stuff. Most of your clients got a hose out there. All you got to do is bring this, your fertilizer, in a bucket, or a 1-gallon plastic jug, and you're in business. So.
Gus, I seem to recall in the past, like when you were liming the lawn or something like that, oyster shell, you'll use the spreader too? Is that correct?
Well, we found we have these spreaders wear out, and a lot of times the bottom wears out. So what we did, we cut all the holes out, so it really drops out fast. Because when you put the lime on, you want to put a lot of lime. If you put this on the most open, it'll take you forever to do the front lawn here. But if you cut all those off, you know, the spreader's not good anymore. A lot of them broke off or whatever, little spots on the bottom. Then that would be your lime spreader from then on. But if you just run it through here, it takes forever.
Because some of that oyster shell's a little chunky too, huh? Otherwise
kind of,
it'd probably get clogged up with a little hole.
And we usually use that to make the lawn a little more alkaline, because we find that all the fertilizers we use are sulfate. And so we're building up, make the soil more acid. So once a year, probably around February, January, February, we put the lime on once a year. And we've done that out here all the time.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Okay? I think that's about it.